Start your first Revit macro. Ready to write your first macro? As you'll see, the process is very easy. Follow the steps below and you'll be on your way to macro mastery. 1. Open the Revit Macro Manager. Create a new project file. Click the Manage ribbon, then click the Macro Manager icon. This will open the Macro Manager dialog. Macros can reside in a project file or within the Revit application. Macros saved in the project file can be used by any user who opens that file. Macros saved in the application are saved to the user's Revit configuration. These macros can be used on any model file but only by the user who created the macro. 2. Create a new module. When creating a macro in a new project file, you must first create a module. A module is simply a collection of macros. A single project file can contain several modules, with each module having its own macros. Module names cannot contain spaces or special characters. To create a module, click the Project 1 tab, then click the Module button in the Create section. In the Create a New Module dialog box, title your module My First Module. You can write macros in C#, VB.NET, Python or Ruby. For this exercise, choose VB.NET as the module's language. Click OK to create the module. 3. Create a new macro. Now that you have a module, you can create a macro inside the module. Click the Macro button in the Create section of the Macro Manager dialog. In the Create a New Macro dialog, title your first macro My First Macro and set the language to .NET. Click OK to create the macro. 4. Write the macro. Switch over to Sharp Develop. You'll see the standard .NET code that is automatically generated when you create a new module. Toward the bottom you'll see the starting code for My First Macro. Your first macro is simply going to pop up a message box in Revit. It only takes one line of code. After the public void My First Macro, type the following between the brackets. 5. Build the macro. Once you've typed the code, you're ready to compile or build the macro. All macros must be built before Revit can run them. In the Sharp Develop menu bar, select Build, then Build Solution. If you have an error, double-check your code. The code window will list errors by line number so they are easy to pinpoint. 6. Run the macro. If your macro compiled correctly, go back to Revit and open the Macro Manager dialog, Manage greater than Macro Manager. You should see My First Macro in the list below My First Module. Select My First Macro from the list, then click the Run button. This will execute your macro. You should see the following on your screen. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe our channel.